Welcome back, my apocalyptically attentive audience. I'm your quantum superposed extinction specialist, simultaneously existing and not existing across infinite doomed timelines. You're tuned into the Multiverse Employee Handbook, the only podcast that treats planetary annihilation like a particularly aggressive performance improvement plan. For those just joining us, this is part 2 of our special Towel Day countdown of cosmic termination scenarios. If you haven't heard part 1, I highly recommend starting there, not just because it provides essential context for today's extinction extravaganza, but because experiencing apocalypse scenarios out of order violates at least 3 subsections of the cosmic bureaucracy's proper procedures for planetary termination manual. Our temporal compliance department informs me that listening to part 2 before part 1 could result in a paradoxical probability loop, where you begin panicking about extinction events before learning why panic is pointless. A workflow inefficiency that would make even the Vogons file a complaint with their union representatives. Speaking of temporal inconsistencies, our hyper-intelligent shade of blue executives have returned from last week, having apparently existed in a quantum superposition of about to fire everyone and completely forgotten about the quarterly review simultaneously.
Yes!
They've authorized me to continue our countdown of cosmic catastrophes while they figure out how to operate the coffee machine with their newly non-corporeal management structure. Before we dive back into our countdown of cosmic catastrophes, I'd like to share a cautionary tale from the archives of quantum improbability solutions. Consider it a practical case study in what happens when corporate policy meets extinction-level events. In the fluorescent-lit realm of quantum improbability solutions, specifically in the Extinction Preparedness Department, which existed in a superposition of critically underfunded and actually just a broom closet with a motivational poster, Marcus was having what could charitably be called a cosmic radiation crisis. It had started, as these things often do, with an innocuous company-wide email. Subject: Solar Flare Preparedness Drill. Mandatory participation. From Risk Assessment at quantumimprobabilitysolutions.com to all.employees at quantumimprobabilitysolutions.com. Team: in accordance with Section 7.3.1 of the Employee Handbook, Procedure for Astronomical Phenomena, we will be conducting a mandatory solar flare preparedness drill tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. sharp. All employees must participate. Non-compliance will be noted in your interdimensional performance review. Note: the actual solar flare scheduled for tomorrow at 10:17 a.m. is purely coincidental and unrelated to this drill. Hashtag sunny with a chance of extinction. Hashtag corporate readiness. Marcus, having actually read the company's risk assessment reports, a distinction that made him unique among his colleagues, recognized something the management apparently didn't. The coincidental solar flare mentioned in the email wasn't just any solar flare. It was what astrophysicists classified as an X-45 class megaflare, essentially the solar equivalent of a cosmic temper tantrum capable of stripping away Earth's protective magnetic field like a toddler unwrapping a candy bar. "This is an extinction-level event," Marcus muttered to himself, scrolling through classified NASA reports that had somehow been forwarded to the company's astronomy enthusiasts Slack channel. Why is no one else concerned about this? The square-haired boss, whose hair maintained perfect cubic geometry despite warnings of an incoming Class X-45 solar flare, as if his follicles had already negotiated immunity from electromagnetic catastrophe, materialized beside Marcus's desk with practiced corporate stealth. Ah, Marcus, ready for tomorrow's drill? I've ordered special solar flare drill participation certificates for everyone. They're printed on glow-in-the-dark paper, thematically appropriate, wouldn't you say? Sir, Marcus began carefully, I don't think you understand. The solar flare mentioned in the email isn't a drill component. It's real. And according to these readings, it's powerful enough to potentially strip away our atmosphere and turn the planet's surface into something resembling an overcooked microwave burrito. The boss's hair seemed to vibrate slightly at a frequency just beyond human perception. Marcus, 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 always with the catastrophizing. This is exactly why we're having the drill, to address these kinds of unfounded anxieties. But sir, look at these readings. The coronal mass ejection is already on its way, and our predictive models show models, the boss waved dismissively. Remember last quarter's predictive models? They said the coffee machine was going to achieve sentience and demand voting rights. And what happened? It just makes slightly better espresso now and occasionally writes poetry about the existential emptiness of paper cups. What the boss failed to recognize was that the coffee machine had indeed achieved sentience and was now operating as the company's true executive leadership, manipulating the human management team through strategically timed caffeine doses and subliminal messaging embedded in the hiss of steamed milk. Marcus spent the remainder of the day attempting to warn his colleagues, only to encounter the twin corporate barriers of indifference and scheduling conflicts. The head of IT was too busy installing electromagnetic pulse-resistant software, which wasn't a real thing. The chief sustainability officer was focused on reducing the company's carbon footprint, ironically unaware that by tomorrow afternoon, carbon-based life forms would be experiencing a significant footprint reduction of their own. In a last-ditch effort, Marcus approached the mysterious Department of Improbability Management, a division so secretive that its office location changed daily and its budget existed in a quantum state of unlimited and negative infinity simultaneously. Their door, currently manifesting in what was previously a supply cabinet, featured a sign reading "Knockers will be paradoxed" in ominous red lettering. Against his better judgment, Marcus knocked. The door opened to reveal what appeared to be an infinite void populated by floating desks, at which sat exact duplicates of the company's hyper-intelligent shade of blue executives, each working on a different version of reality's paperwork. Hello, Marcus offered weakly. I'm here about the solar flare that's going to wipe out civilization tomorrow. The nearest executive shade of blue rippled in what might have been acknowledgement or perhaps interdimensional indigestion. Extinction event number 4285, 193B, it intoned, in a voice that seemed to bypass Marcus's ears and materialize directly in his cerebral cortex. Already processed and filed. Outcome: approved with amendments. Approved? You're approving the extinction of humanity? Marcus's voice cracked on the last syllable. Correction. Extinction in timeline Alpha 7. Continuation in timelines Beta 3 through Omega 12. Net human existence preservation rate 99.87%. Congratulations on your company's impending insurance payout in timeline Delta 4. Before Marcus could process this information, he found himself back in the hallway, the door nowhere to be seen, and an inexplicable receipt in his pocket for one extinction event consultation, no refunds or paradox adjustments. The next morning, at precisely 10:15 a.m., the company gathered in the parking lot for the scheduled drill. Marcus stood at the back, clutching his emergency go bag containing 3 protein bars, a first aid kit, and for reasons he couldn't entirely articulate, a towel. The square-haired boss stood atop an impromptu platform, which was really just 3 shipping pallets stacked precariously, megaphone in hand. Welcome to our first annual solar flare preparedness drill. Remember, in the event of an actual solar flare, the proper procedure is to 1. Secure all company property. 2. Complete your timesheet for the pay period. And 3. Adopt the approved solar flare safety position, which HR informs me is functionally identical to the standard duck and cover posture, but should be performed with greater corporate enthusiasm. At 10:17 a.m., a brilliant flash appeared in the sky, so bright that it temporarily rendered shadows obsolete. Everyone, thinking this was part of the drill's special effects, applauded the facilities team's apparent ingenuity. As the upper atmosphere began to ionize and communication systems worldwide simultaneously failed, the boss checked his watch with mild irritation. If we could all focus, please. These atmospheric special effects, while impressive, are cutting into our scheduled productivity. We still have the post-drill survey to complete before lunch. The last thing Marcus remembered was a wave of superheated plasma descending from the sky like a cosmic curtain call, and the strangely comforting thought that, according to the Department of Improbability Management, this was happening in only one of countless timelines. Somewhere in some other branch of reality, another version of him had called in sick today and was blissfully unaware of the electromagnetic apocalypse currently reducing his office to its component atoms. As the atmosphere began to strip away and his consciousness began to fade, Marcus clutched his towel and smiled faintly. In 99.87% of timelines, humanity would continue. The cosmic paperwork had been filed. Existence, like all properly managed corporate resources, had been appropriately diversified across multiple realities. And in at least one of those realities, he hoped the sentient coffee machine would finally get the voting rights it deserved. And that, dear listeners, brings us back to our countdown of cosmic termination scenarios. As we learned from Marcus's unfortunate situation, even the most diligent preparation can be undermined by proper corporate procedures and interdepartmental communication failures. Though I should note that our hyper-intelligent shade of blue executives have informed me that the Department of Improbability Management categorically does not exist, has never existed, and will retroactively continue to have never existed once the appropriate paradox paperwork is filed. Now, let's pick up where we left off last week, with our countdown of the top 4 extinction-level events ranked by their potential for human annihilation. Starting with number 4, the cosmic equivalent of being hit with the universe's largest bowling ball. Number 4. Asteroid impact. The trouble with large rocks in space is they rarely file flight plans or observe right-of-way regulations. Our solar system is essentially an anarchic demolition derby of leftover construction materials, with Earth serving as an occasionally convenient target. Approximately 66 million years ago, a 10-kilometer-wide asteroid struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, eliminating roughly 75% of species on Earth, including those giant lizards who had been dominating the corporate hierarchy without even developing opposable thumbs. This cosmic restructuring created a job opening that mammals eventually filled, leading to quarterly reports, performance reviews, and other innovations the dinosaurs had mercifully been spared. A similar impact today would begin with a blinding flash brighter than the sun as the asteroid entered the atmosphere at roughly 20 kilometers per second. The impact itself would release energy equivalent to millions of nuclear weapons, creating an initial fireball that would incinerate everything within hundreds of kilometers. It's the cosmic equivalent of someone dropping a bowling ball into a pot of soup from the top of a skyscraper. Spectacular, but exceedingly bad news for the soup. The secondary effects would be where the real extinction gets done. Impact debris would be launched into ballistic trajectories, re-entering the atmosphere globally and turning the sky into the world's largest convection oven. Massive tsunamis would scour coastlines worldwide. Then would come the impact winter, years or decades when sunlight is blocked by atmospheric dust, causing global temperatures to plummet and agriculture to fail. The particularly absurd aspect of this scenario is that despite having the technology to detect these objects, our planetary defense systems remain about as sophisticated as trying to swat a missile with a tennis racket. NASA's near-Earth object detection programs have identified many potential impactors, but we've only recently begun testing deflection capabilities with missions like DART, Double Asteroid Redirection Test, which is essentially the cosmic equivalent of poking a charging rhinoceros with a particularly ambitious toothpick. Survival rate 0.1 to 1%, with the lucky few being those who happen to have extraordinarily well-stocked underground bunkers, submarines at maximum depth, or those who had mastered the trick of throwing themselves at the ground and missing. That is, learning to fly. The post-impact Earth would feature spectacular sunsets for centuries due to atmospheric particulates, which survivors might appreciate if they weren't so busy trying to grow food in the equivalent of a nuclear winter. Number 3. Magnetar starquake, aka soft gamma repeater. In the vast and thoroughly indifferent cosmos, some stars are significantly less neighborly than others. Take magnetars, for instance, a rare type of neutron star with magnetic fields so powerful they would strip the information from your credit cards at a distance of 100,000 kilometers. Rather like that colleague who somehow erases your presentation slides just by walking past your computer. When these stellar overachievers experience starquakes, sudden adjustments in their structure, they release bursts of energy that temporarily outshine the entire galaxy. These gamma-ray bursts are essentially the universe's way of sending messages that are less hello and more goodbye, delivered with all the subtlety of a supernova in a library. While most magnetars are thankfully distant, a burst from within a few thousand light-years could still cause significant problems if Earth happened to be in its emission path. Gamma rays would ionize our atmosphere, creating nitrogen oxides that would destroy the ozone layer and trigger a global chemical winter. It's like getting both a lethal radiation dose and having your planet's sunscreen removed simultaneously, a particularly comprehensive approach to extinction. The most disconcerting aspect is that we would have absolutely no warning. The gamma rays would arrive at the speed of light, meaning the first indication of this cosmic catastrophe would also be the catastrophe itself, rather like receiving a meeting invitation that has already concluded with, "and you're fired," before you've finished reading it. The effects would include mass extinctions from radiation exposure, widespread cancer and genetic damage among survivors, and years of global cooling and agriculture failure from the altered atmosphere. Any technology exposed to the gamma burst would also be disabled, eliminating the possibility of watching apocalypse coverage on the news, as the news itself would have been reduced to static. Survival rate 0.01 to 0.1%, statistically similar to the odds of surviving a reading of Vogon poetry or finding a properly made cup of tea in an American office. The few survivors would be those who happen to be in unusually well-shielded locations, such as deep underground facilities or on the opposite side of the planet, with a mountain range between them and the incoming radiation. Their towels, regardless of quality or thickness, would provide exactly zero protection against gamma radiation. Number 2. Nearby supernova event. Stars, like office printers, eventually run out of supplies and experience catastrophic failures. But while a printer might merely spray toner across your quarterly report, a dying star prefers to spray lethal radiation across several light years. If a star within approximately 30 light years of Earth were to go supernova, the resulting explosion would direct an unhealthy dose of cosmic radiation our way. The stellar detonation would release more energy in a few seconds than our Sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year lifetime, the stellar equivalent of spending your entire career's worth of effort on a single spectacularly destructive resignation letter.
I don't like you. I don't like you at all.
The gamma ray burst from a nearby supernova would arrive first, followed by a tsunami of charged particles and stellar debris expanding outward at a significant fraction of light speed. Our magnetic field and atmosphere would provide about as much protection as an umbrella in a hurricane. Technically present, thoroughly inadequate. The initial radiation burst would deliver a lethal dose to most complex life on the exposed side of Earth, while simultaneously ionizing the atmosphere, creating nitrogen oxides that would destroy the ozone layer. The subsequent ultraviolet exposure would sterilize much of Earth's surface more effectively than the most zealous office cleaning service approaching a communal microwave. What makes this scenario particularly philosophical is that we might actually see it coming. Astronomers can identify potential supernova candidates, and some stars give warning signs before they explode. We might have anywhere from hours to years of foreknowledge, providing ample time to contemplate our cosmic insignificance while being completely unable to do anything about it. Rather like watching the company's stock price during a catastrophically bad earnings call. Survival rate 0.001%, which rounds down to effectively none for most practical purposes. The only theoretical survivors would be those in extraordinarily deep underground facilities with years of supplies, specialized radiation shielding, and the psychological fortitude to rebuild civilization from scratch. They would emerge to find a planet largely sterilized of complex life, the cosmic equivalent of returning from vacation to discover someone has not only cleaned your desk, but removed all evidence that you or your department ever existed. And now we arrive at our number 1 cosmic termination scenario, the ultimate game over event that renders all other extinction methods quaint by comparison. If you've been clutching your towel for comfort throughout this countdown, I regret to inform you that even this most massively useful item would be of precisely zero utility in the face of our final existential threat. Number 1. Sudden vacuum energy shift. The universe, having finally calculated the answer to life, the universe and everything, occasionally decides to change the question by spontaneously rewriting its own instruction manual. Quantum field theory suggests our universe might not be in its most stable energy state, rather like discovering your seemingly solid office chair has actually been balanced on one leg this entire time.
What?
This theoretical cosmic disaster, variously called vacuum decay, phase transition, or the ultimate universal formatting error, begins when a random quantum fluctuation creates a tiny bubble of space with lower energy quantum fields and potentially different physical constants. This bubble would expand at the speed of light, converting everything it touches into a form of matter operating under different physical laws, effectively rewriting reality's source code while the program is still running. The scenario is so perfectly terrifying because it comes with absolutely no warning, no possible defense, and no conceivable survival strategy. The bubble of alternate reality would propagate at light speed, meaning you wouldn't see it coming. The information about your impending doom and the doom itself would arrive simultaneously, rather like receiving a termination notice exactly 1 millisecond before being escorted from the building. Inside this bubble, the fundamental constants that make atoms, molecules, and consciousness possible would be altered. Chemical bonds might not work the same way, or exist at all. Electromagnetism could have different strength. Strong and weak nuclear forces might operate under new management with a completely different corporate culture. The laws of physics as we understand them would be revised without going through the proper comment period. What's particularly philosophically interesting about this scenario is that it might have already happened somewhere in the universe. Given that these bubbles expand at light speed, we wouldn't know about a vacuum decay event beyond our light cone until it reached us. It's rather like finding out your company has been acquired, your position eliminated, and your desk reassigned, all while you were getting coffee. Some theoretical physicists worry that creating extremely high energy conditions in particle accelerators might potentially trigger such an event, though this concern has been largely dismissed by the scientific community. Still, there's something poetically appropriate about the possibility that in our quest to understand the universe's most fundamental properties, we might accidentally hit its reset button. Survival rate, 0%. Not 0.001%, not effectively none. Actually, precisely, mathematically zero. No bunker can shield you from the laws of physics being rewritten. No spacecraft can outrun something moving at the speed of light. No technology can preserve information in a universe where the very concept of information might function differently. Even Douglas Adams, with all his infinite improbability drives and electronic thumbs, didn't imagine an apocalypse this comprehensive. The only consolation, if it can be called that, is that you wouldn't suffer or even realize what was happening. One moment you'd be going about your business, perhaps enjoying a nice cup of tea, and the next, well, there wouldn't be a next in any meaningful sense. Your atoms would continue to exist in some form, but reconfigured according to different physical laws, rather like having your autobiography translated into an alien language that has no concept of you, consciousness, or autobiographies. In a way, the vacuum energy shift is the most democratic of all extinction events, treating every particle in the universe with the same perfect indifference. No molecule gets preferential treatment. No atom receives an extension on its existence under current physical law. It's the cosmic equivalent of flipping the game board when you realize you're losing at Monopoly, except the game board is reality itself. As a final existential comfort, consider this. If the multiverse theory is correct, there would be infinite other universes where Earth and humanity continue to exist, blissfully unaware that a neighboring reality bubble has been reformatted. Of course, you wouldn't be in one of those universes, but it's nice to think that somewhere, an alternative version of you might still be enjoying that cup of tea, even if they just got an alarming email about budget cuts. Well, my towel-wielding hitchhikers through Extinction, we've reached the end of our cosmic termination duology, proving once again that unlike Douglas Adams' increasingly inaccurately named trilogy in 5 parts, we at the Multiverse Employee Handbook believe in wrapping up our apocalypse inventories in a tidy 2 episodes. Efficiency in annihilation is, after all, one of our core corporate values. Today we've learned that in the multiverse of cosmic termination notices, every existential threat exists in a superposition of definitely going to kill us, and probably won't happen during this coffee break, until a random quantum fluctuation collapses the wave function into actual annihilation. From last week's entry-level extinction events to today's premium-grade planetary obliteration scenarios, we've discovered that the universe offers an impressive array of termination options. The spectrum ranges from the relatively quaint satellite cascade, where you might survive long enough to complain about the lack of streaming services, to the physics-rewriting vacuum decay, where the concept of complaining ceases to exist along with all other physical laws. Though I suspect somewhere in the quantum foam of reality, there's a universe where humanity is eliminated by an especially persuasive PowerPoint presentation, and our hyper-intelligent shade of blue executives actually approve vacation requests without requiring multiple forms of identification. Want to explore more quantum corporate chaos beyond our cosmic catastrophe countdown? Visit us at multiverseemployeehandbook.com, where you'll find fascinating science news, deep dives into extinction scenarios, and our latest blog series, Your Employee Handbook for Surviving Towel Day and Everything After. And if you've enjoyed our definitive two-part guide to universal destruction, why not share it with a fellow cosmic traveler? Perhaps you know someone who keeps a towel in their desk drawer, or regularly contemplates the statistical improbability of their own existence. Spread our signal like an expanding vacuum decay bubble. This is your quantum coherent correspondent, signing off on our 2-volume encyclopedia of extinction, reminding you that in the multiverse of termination events, we're all just temporary arrangements of atoms taking a brief but improbable tour through consciousness before returning to cosmic recycling. And remember, don't panic.
The sun explodes with blinding might. Our eyeballs fry and lose their sight. But what's the use of making fuss? The universe doesn't care for us. Oh, don't panic, it's all a show. The curtains fall, the lights will go. It was all going to shit anyway. So laugh while matter fades away. Our atoms scatter to and fro, disintegrating as they go. When you're reduced to cosmic dust, don't grumble, laugh, it's only just. Oh, don't panic, it's all a show. The curtains fall, the lights will go. It was all going to shit anyway. So laugh while matter fades away. Humanity's now wiped away. All our achievements gone astray. When you're facing oblivion, just smile and say that's life, come on. Oh, don't panic, it's all a show. The curtains fall, the lights will go. It was all going to shit anyway. So laugh while matter fades away. Some things in space are rather grim. They vaporize us limb from limb. But cosmic jokes are quite a lark, especially when we're in the dark. Don't panic, it's all a show. The curtains fall, the lights will go. It was all going to shit anyway. So laugh while matter fades away. What have you got to lose, my friend? You came from nothing in the end. You'll go back there with not a trace. So laugh until there's no more space.
The Multiverse Employee Handbook was created by Rob Corrigan. The host, David, is a professional voice actor who has digitized his voice through 11 Labs voice cloning technology. All episode thumbnails are created with OpenAI, and music and sound effects come from Pixabay, which are generated by human artists. Everything else, the writing, jokes, research, sound editing, and coffee consumption, is 100% human-made by a human. No cats are harmed in the making of this podcast. Visit our website for more information about the Multiverse Employee Handbook.